Hello and welcome to ScotDance USA's World Champion Dancers and Teachers interview series. I'm Emma Schiff. The Professional Development Committee at ScotDance USA wants to help the Highland dancing world stay motivated during these challenging times. That's why we're talking to the best of the best, World Champion dancers and their teachers. We'll learn about how they achieved what they did, plus their advice for dancers and teachers struggling during quarantine. We hope these videos can bring you inspiration. Enjoy. Today, I'm speaking with two-time world champion Anthea Bundy. Anthea, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, right now is a very difficult time for a lot of dancers who are struggling to stay motivated. What advice would you have for dancers to keep practicing now?
Well, my advice would be obviously it's hard because there's nothing really to work towards. But I think what they need, well, if I was dancing, what I would do is maybe try and think, what do I need to work on, and try and make myself like small goals every month. So, like the first month, maybe make it back steps and then try and like work on that instead of like exhausting out the steps, because I think they're doing the steps next year, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, I think if you just keep practicing the championship steps, you're going to get bored of them. So I think if you make yourself like small goals, that would help keep you motivated, like your, I don't know, your own achievements.
Speaking of practicing, when you were competing at the world level, what did your practice routine look like?
um, it was quite intense. um, Basically, when it was obviously like summer holidays, schools had stopped and everything, I would make myself like a program. Um, so I was lucky enough, my parents built me a little dance studio out in the back garden. So I'd like wake up, and I'd go outside, usually maybe do like a bit of ballet or something. And then I'd come in, have breakfast, and then I'd go back out. I'd maybe have like an hour dedicated to like technique. So I would like work on what I wanted to work on. And then I'd come in, have lunch, and then I'd go out and do maybe like, I don't know, some abs or like some strength training. And then it was just kind of back and forth from the house. And then I'd always do some plyometric work during the day. And then eventually my parents would come out later on and we would do like a stamina practice, which was like the main practice. So all in all, I was probably out for like 6 hours a day. Like it was quite intense. That's all I remember from my summers when I was
Wow.
uh, competing, or I'd be living at Delmas.
So, what did a stamina practice look like for you? What did that consist of?
Well, the stamina practice was mostly like was I'd maybe focus on like two dances one day and then two dances the next day. I would like obviously do the full dance. Usually, if it was the fling, I'd maybe do like an 8-step fling. If it was a swords, maybe like 5, 6-step swords. I would work on that, and then when I was going through my techniques, I'd always do it like 2 steps at a time. Um, and this wasn't great because I've got asthma, so I was like exhausted. Um, but yeah, that was most of it. I think mainly the stamina thing was because my stamina got really bad in the last 2 steps. So I was like, if I do the extra 2 steps, it'll maybe counteract.
Yeah. And so
So
you
that
also did ballet and other things. Do you think that cross training really helped bring in, and not only cross training with abs and other stuff, but doing other forms of dancing helped you in your Highland?
yeah, I think it did because well, I'd done ballet and everything when I was young, and then I was told to give it up when I was maybe about 10 because I was told to focus on Highland. But no, I think the ballet really helped like my upper body, and it helped my inner thigh strength because I've got really bad inner thigh strength. But yeah, I even done like some tap to help with my jig. uh, so yeah, I would say it did help with my like lines and everything because
Mhm.
I was not elegant. I think it helped in that way.
You also mentioned that sometimes, I'm guessing this was in the summers, you would go and stay with Delma for a while.
Yeah.
So when you were in that competition season in the summer, what did your lesson schedule look like?
Um, well, usually I'd be through at Delmas. So if I was through at Delmas, I'd maybe have like 2 or 3 privates a week, um, or like most days, or maybe just go out to our garage and then get her out to come and check something. I think, and then it'd maybe be like 3 classes a week. So it'd be like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, and then like a private Tuesday, Thursday.
Oh,
So
right. So you did the group classes
yeah, so it
on.
was like group class Monday, private Tuesday, and then class Wednesday, private Thursday.
Did you
So
like doing group classes or privates more?
um, oh, I don't know. Maybe the classes, because I would try and treat a class as a competition, and also like obviously when I was competing, David would be in the class as well, so I would have like him to try and compete against. Or there was quite a lot of like dancers who
There
were
was
like
like
in,
a high standard class.
yeah, and then obviously during summer, Delma would have like a lot of people from like the States or Canada come over. So I've probably preferred class because it probably pushed me a bit more to try and keep up with the adults.
Yeah. What was
So
the
yeah.
hardest thing for you to fix?
Oh, my left turnout, my left side of my turnout. It was awful. It's still not great. That and my pelvis was always like the thing that would go. If I got tired, it would be the first thing that went. Delma and I would always be like, I really hope, like, so if the judges were in front of me, we always hoped I was on that side
Yeah.
because I don't know, my left side is just, it's not my best friend.
What did you
But
do to work on that?
um, a lot of um, a lot of like TheraBand work. So I had like it was like an exercise band. It was like a fancy kind, but I used to do loads of that to try and work on the inner thigh and um, that yeah, the outer thigh to try and work on the strength. And then that's why eventually we were like, I'll start ballet lessons to try and work on my pelvis alignment.
Mhm.
Stick my bum out quite a lot.
So you had like a very intense practice routine. It was like a whole day affair. How did you
Yeah.
stay committed to doing that?
Um, I don't really know. I think like because I would physically write out a plan and then I would like tick it off um as I went through. But I think like once I focus on something, like I will put all my energy into it. So I think it was just kind of more like I'd feel like maybe guilty that I didn't do it because I'd wrote it out and everything. So I don't know. I think I just always like focused on the main goal, like because I didn't like practicing. I still don't really like at the moment I'm doing physio and I don't like it, but I'm just thinking of like the final aim is what keeps me going, I'd say.
Mhm. When did it become your goal to win worlds? Was there a specific moment that you realized that was an achievable goal?
I think I realised it was an achievable goal when because I moved to Delma when I was 12. Yeah, when I was 12. And then when I was 13, I came sixth in the juvenile. And then I think that's when, like, me, my mum, and Delma and all that were like, oh, well, I could actually maybe try and, like, win this. So I would say it was then. It was probably when I was about 13. We were like, okay, we'll try and go for it. So, because I remember, like, having a chat with, like, Delma, my mum. And obviously, it was like I think it was a big decision as well because obviously my mum and dad had to put a lot of time in stuff. So yeah, I would probably say then.
And then you won when you were 15?
When I was 15, yeah. When I was 14, I don't think I placed. I don't think I think I got a sixth in the fling or something. I didn't place, but it was 15 when I won my first one. Yeah.
Was that you went from being in the top six to not coming in the top six after you had set your goal? Was that kind of a setback for you, or did it kind of push you to practice harder?
Yeah. I mind I was absolutely gutted. But I think that was the year I had like 2 broken big toes, so I was kind of like
Mm.
on and off, on and off. I think it made me work harder, um, because I think when I didn't do as well as what I'd hoped for, because I knew that year I think by the time I was 14 we were like it's not going to happen this year just because I'd had like so much time off. Um, but I think because I'd already had a kind of like a taste of it the year before, it made me want it more. So it made me more driven.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it worked in my favor.
What was it like when they called your name as world champion when you were 15?
I don't, I remember just like crying. I was just crying. Yeah, I remember it was like, it's weird. I can't really explain it. I think you're just like, so many emotions are going through all at once. And I always remember when I was younger, and I was talking to Rachel McLagan, and she was like, she was like, you can't explain the feeling. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I don't know. It was a highlight, definitely a highlight. Yeah.
Did you feel any added pressure after that first win when you were going into the juniors, maybe?
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of pressure, just because obviously when you're like 16, 17, a lot of the championships you do on the lead up to Kewell, you're like competing in the two age brackets. It's not like 16 and 17, it's like a joint one. And I just remember being under so much pressure, and I think that's like my own worst enemy. Just, yeah, you're not going to do anything if you're like forcing yourself to try and do something. So yeah, I'd say I felt a lot of pressure.
Did you struggle with nerves at all from that?
Yeah. Well, I actually, well, I had to like do like a lot of mental work, just because sometimes I would just like bottle it, like absolutely bottle it. I remember, I think it was like when I was 16 at Kewell before the swords, and I remember just like crying before the swords because I was like, I don't want to kick them. So yeah, I felt yeah, a lot of nerves.
How did you handle nerves? Like, did you do anything to mentally prepare for competitions? Like, they have any superstitions or anything like that?
Well, I'm the most superstitious person. So basically, my lucky number, my lucky number is 3. So when I was competing, I'd have to have a 3 in my number, or if I didn't have a 3 in my number, I'd need to try and work out a 3. I'd have like 3 certain hairpins that I wore every competition. I'd have lucky underwear. I was so superstitious. If my hair didn't go right, I was like, I'm not going to dance well. Honestly, I think, it was a nightmare. I'm still not great at it. Even if I go to an audition and I don't have a 3 in my number, I'm like, oh my god. But I really nerves. Like sometimes I feel like they would help. Like but then sometimes they would just take over. So I think the way I tried to deal with it was, I can't remember someone told me, they were like, there's no point like getting nervous over something like that you can and can't control. So basically, like when I was dancing, I just tried to remind myself, like, I was like, I'm in complete control of this. And then I was like, what's going to happen is going to happen. And then the nerves kicked in before the results, because I was like, it's out of my control now. But I think I would always need to be in like a certain zone. Otherwise I would just get all worked up.
Mm-hmm. So were you a person who had to kind of be in your own little space, not really talking to other people, maybe listening to music, or did it help you to kind of talk to other people and maybe, make it more casual and not thinking so much about like the intense competition aspect?
Yeah, I think as I got older, I started to like talk a bit more, but I think people who were in my group, they would probably say I wasn't that chatty, because if I was in the line, I would always just like have my headphones in, and it just, this is quite sad, but I would make like little notes of what I wanted to do in that dance, and I'd take them to the line with me and read over them. And I had like certain songs and that I would play before each dance. Yeah, I think if I talked too much, I would get distracted and I wouldn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was chatty after the dances were done.
Oh, you mentioned earlier that when you were 16, you broke your toes or a big toe?
Yeah, or maybe I was 14 when I broke my toes.
Oh, sorry, 14.
Yeah, 14. I had so many injuries.
You're like, I don't even know. So if you have, injuries, some dancers, they go through a whole career and I don't, without any major injuries. And then some dancers, they go through it, and I'm one of those dancers that's like broken both my feet. And, how did you overcome injuries? Like, how did you come back from them?
I'm trying to think, how did I? I remember, well, I was always like really bad. I'm really impatient. So I remember when I broke both my big toes, I don't think I gave myself like the long enough recovery time, probably. But I'm trying to think, how did I?
Did you do
I don't.
anything during, like, even if you're not jumping, were you able to do, still do your abs, still do any other
Oh
Pilates type?
yeah, I would. Well, there was another year I had tendonitis in my left ankle. I think, yeah, my left side. So it was my left side. Um, and I had a physio that I went to like once or twice a week, and he would give me like set exercises to do to keep working on the strength of my legs. And then maybe if I wasn't able to do as much, then that maybe be when I worked on a bit more like technique and stuff.
Mhm.
Like Demo would just have me standing at the mirror, just like not even hopping, just go side back, side back. So it was kind of like working on the basics.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
To my younger self, I was actually saying this to Delva the other day. When I was younger, I wish when I was competing, I'd done yoga. And
That's
that
what
is,
they said yesterday. That's what David and Delma were saying. They were like, everyone should have done yoga.
yeah, honestly, I said to Delma, I was like, I wish when I was competing, I'd done yoga. And I was like, if I could go back and say something to myself to help my dancing, it would have been do yoga. Like I started it, well, I tried it last year and I was like, I hate it. And then I started it after my operation again. And honestly, I was like, the amount of strength that I've gained in my core and that I know about my body. And I was like, my pelvis is like, I can do it. Yeah. And even I was talking to a friend about it, another friend who'd done Highland, and we were just saying like the breathing, how it helps with the nerves and like a bit of like meditation and everything. I sound like so guru, but I think it would have like really helped me if I was when I was younger.
Hmm.
So
So,
that's what,
did you ever compete in the adults?
no.
So, what made you decide to stop after you were 17?
I got into it's called Dance School Scotland. So it's like a high school. It's kind of like a High School Musical thing. It's like a high school, but you do musical theatre in the high school. And so basically, if you get in, you're not allowed to really do any dance outside it. Um,
Oh,
yeah, it's very strict. It's very strict. Because I mind I'd started the school before I'd done the Worlds when I was 17, and it was like even a struggle to try and get them to let me compete.
wow.
Yeah, it's quite intense. But then eventually, like I don't know, me and Del, I tried to do some Skype lessons once I moved, but then I was just like, it's not the same, and I was like, I just didn't feel like I always knew I wasn't going to go for the adults when I accepted my place. But I tried to keep it up, but I was like, I'm not dancing up to the same standard. So yeah, it was a tough decision. But yeah, I remember I told Delma it was my last championship just before the results.
What was your last? Your Cowell was your last one ever?
Yeah,
Well, that's actually pretty cool that your last one you won.
yeah. I mean,
Talk about going out with a bang.
yeah, I know. Sometimes sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe, because obviously I said 3 is my lucky number. I'm like, oh, maybe I should have went for the adults, but then I'm like, I ended on a high. I'm gonna finish there.
Have you ever had any funny mishaps at a competition?
um, well, probably the biggest memory I have, I was probably about like 6 or something, or 7. I don't know what age I was, but I was doing the reel, and it was the volunteer was someone from the older group, so she was a lot taller than me, and she must have pulled me really hard, and I fell like flat on my face. But when I fell, my tooth hadn't come through, but like the tooth came through the gum, and I chipped my tooth. It was all bleeding, and I remember I think it was Victor Wesley judging. And he was like, "Fine, just wipe it up, and she can dance again." So I was like, "Okay, I think I got first in it."
Yeah, you did dance again.
I'm sorry for me. But that's probably like the biggest one that stands out. And I think I was only 6. It's obviously scarred me for life.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I still got the chip to this day.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Highland dancing leaves you with so many great things.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to ask is, what's your favorite memory? Not necessarily competitive, just anything from Highland.
Um, hmm. I don't know. There's probably like two standouts. Obviously, the Worlds. That was pretty fab. Then also there was when I was, I'm trying to think what age was I? I must have been just after I won the first World, so I must have been just 15. I got to lead the parade for the Pope, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, he came
Where
to
was
Edinburgh.
that? Oh, wow.
It was in Edinburgh, and I had to lead the parade with a big flag through Edinburgh. And obviously, my arms have never been so sore in my life. um, so those were probably like two big standouts, I'd say.
Yeah, those both don't sound bad memories at all.
Yeah, no, they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. But I can't believe it's been like 10 years since I won the first one. I was like, oh God, I'm getting old. Yeah,
Oh,
because
wow.
yeah, I know, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah, I know, because I remember, well, I wasn't there the first time, but I was there the second time, and I remember it like, I just remember watching you guys because I didn't qualify or anything. And I was like just in such awe. I remember in 2011 watching on the Saturday, and I was just like, because I had never been to Scotland. I had seen dancing like once or twice in Canada, but the standard from here is not
Yeah.
exactly the same as there, and I was like blown away. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I need to practice a little harder. So yeah.
Yeah. Now I remember going to my first kibble. Because I used to be on board until I was like 8, I think.
Oh, no
And
way.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because I started Highland when I was 3, and then I was on board till I was 8. And then I remember going to like my first kibble and watching, who was it? It was Rachel McGlagan, and I was just like, wow.
Oh,
Nice. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you very much for having me. It's been good fun.